Thank you so much for joining us for another issue of Breaking Free from Nicotine. For our April issue, we wanted to introduce one of the trainers from the Loop. And you may have noticed in our March issue that we included a list of trainings that are available for you to take and to set up. And the way that you would set it up is you would just contact Godfrey Ramos at the Loop at the University of California, San Francisco, and he will coordinate a trainer who will set up a time for you to talk with, and who will set up a training with you and your team so that you can learn more about the effects of tobacco and the different training topics that are listed, as well as policy and cessation and whatever will best fit your needs. Alex with Winston, or Alexandra Winston, she's been a tailored assistance trainer for the Loop since 2017. So she comes with a wealth of knowledge, and she also comes with some personal experience with her training that brings a genuine touch to what she shares with her classes and her courses. Alex is currently based in Florida, but she is also working with San Francisco, and the classes are all virtual. So her classes are virtual. We also have some classes that may be in person, if I'm not mistaken. And they cover a breadth of topics, including, as I mentioned, policy, cessation, and definitely peruse the list to see what best fits your needs. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a bit about, I guess, some of your favorite classes, some things that you've taught and what you've learned, and also some of your experience with being a trainer.
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I feel very honored to be asked. So I've been working in tobacco control for quite a while now. I started at American Lung Association in California. I moved over to the Alameda County Tobacco Control department at the health department there for a while. And then I worked for some supervisors in Solano County for elected officials for quite a while. But I worked for UCSF's The Loop the whole time because I love tobacco prevention and policy in cessation, and I think it's a huge part of my work. I, like many others, have a personal attachment to working in this space. Not only did I grow up around smokers, my grandmother was a 2-pack a day smoker for my entire life until she passed away a few years ago. And I actually was able to buy cigarettes for her when I was 12 years old. Which is really, really something. The other personal part that I like to talk about in my trainings, just to sort of add to why this is such an important subject to talk about, is that I lost my husband also to tobacco use. It was a contributing factor. He was 42 years old. He died very suddenly of a heart attack, and he had 3 packs of cigarettes worth of nicotine in his system when he passed away. He was mixed race, African American, Native American, and Caucasian. 2 of those we know have the highest rates of tobacco-related disease, which is African Americans and Native Americans. He was smoking menthol cigarettes and had been since he was a youngster. That was a very normal thing in his community of Richmond, California. And he was actually trying to quit, and he was doing that by switching to vaping menthol products instead of smoking combustible cigarettes. Unfortunately, he was vaping with what we call a tank system, which is a refillable vape, and had no idea how much nicotine he was taking in. And with that level of nicotine, it can cause heart arrhythmias. So that was unfortunately a contributing factor in his early death. And I do talk about that in my trainings because I want to bring not only the personal experience to the table, but to add names, faces, and families to all of those numbers that we talk about constantly in our statistics. I think it's important that it's not just a pie in the sky kind of a thing. We have to humanize the issue and what people are going through. And I think that's a big part of what I include in a lot of my trainings. I think as far as cessation goes, I think, it's tough, man. People are addicted. I remember my husband saying, I could put anything else down, but I just can't seem to put these damn cigarettes down. And so it really had a hold on him. But some of the things that were encouraging him to try to even take steps to quit, which was not something that he had previously thought about, was learning about the tobacco industry's history of targeting Black communities. It really lit a fire under him to feel empowered just to make an effort to try to quit. And so that's something that's included in almost every training I give. I talk about the targeted marketing and the predatory marketing of the tobacco industry because I think that it truly helps empower people to work either towards their own recovery from nicotine addiction or prevention for others. And so that's helpful. I do a lot of different kinds of trainings. One of them is specifically the history of predatory tobacco industry marketing. I also do social media advocacy. I've done trainings for smoke-free multi-unit housing, nicotine replacement therapy, the kind of the ins and outs of nicotine replacement therapy and how that can play a role in cessation, but also kind of what some of the side effects and things are that people can experience by using either patches or gum or inhalers or lozenges. There's a lot of different products out there. And also kind of removing some of the myths of products that have been promoted as cessation products when we know they aren't sanctioned by the FDA to be such things. And that's still going on. That's still going on all over the place. Talk about tobacco retail licensing, which is a prevention measure, permits and zoning. We know that there's higher access to nicotine products, not only by the number of stores, but also by the prices in many vulnerable communities. And that is very intentional. So kind of talking about that as well.
Minimum price packaging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doing minimum price and also doing zoning and caps for conditional use permits. And then I also do a great deal around really youth leadership and advocacy in this space. Kind of moving away from the zone of really like tokenizing people in any kind of way, but empowering them and also being able to honor their time and give back to them for their efforts and how working in the tobacco prevention and cessation world can be a really fulfilling career that creates generational change. So that's another thing. And I'm going to stop there, Sharice. If you have another question, I don't want to keep going and going.
I know because there's so much to say about this. And I see that you are a true San Franciscan with your 49er shirt. um, so Alex, what would you suggest someone who's interested in the training do to become prepared for when they come to talk? Is there like maybe they should have a list of questions or should they come prepared for or expect?
So usually the way that people set up trainings with us is they contact our coordinator, which is Godfrey Ramos. You mentioned him at the beginning of this training, and I'm sure you can share his contact information. He will put whoever the requester is in charge with what we call the TATs, the technical assistance trainers, and I am one of those. And he will connect us with whoever is requesting the training and sort of what they're looking for. And sometimes people don't really know what they're looking for. So what I like to do is I set up a pre-meeting with whoever's requesting a training so that we can kind of really talk about the needs of whatever the audience is, whether that's staff members, whether that's community members and the public, contractors. I've done big trainings with different contractors and things like that. Healthcare personnel, whatever the case may be, so I can have an understanding of what the audience is, what their level of expertise is. So I'm not sitting there telling them a bunch of things they already know. And people get bored with that very quickly. I've also done training specifically for teachers in schools too, um, and young people. And so kind of figuring out really what the needs are and what they're trying to achieve, what their goal is. Like what's the goal for having the training? And that might be to, train the trainer. Let's talk about cessation or, just get some knowledge to empower us to move forward and discuss health inequities and disparities in a kind and non-judgmental way, whatever that looks like. So that's how I like to do it. I really want to meet with someone beforehand and find out how I can be the most effective in helping them with whatever it is that they need. And then we schedule a date and go from there. I like to also send over a slide deck beforehand so that whoever has requested the training can review it and ask for any changes or deletions or say, oh, could you expand on this subject a little bit more or whatever. So we have some time to do a little bit of tweaking and changes to the presentation if they want some. And I also like to have interactive presentations if I can. I really love discussion-based learning. That's my happy place. I really do like to get people involved in the conversation and actively asking questions or sharing their own stories, and things like that. And I feel like we all kind of come away from a training just feeling a little bit more hopeful and better when we work that way. So I try to have a lot of inclusivity in the trainings as well.
And that's important because people learn better that way if they know that they've been involved and they've been part of the entire process. It's not like they're just lectured to, but they actually were able to engage their brains and understand better. So that's important. Have you seen an impact through your trainings? Have people gave feedback and said, "Oh, this is what happened as a result," or is there some sort of gauge for that? Or if not, it's fine, but just kind of curious. And what are some examples of some people who have taken trainings and have
Yeah, I
yeah.
have actually. So we do an evaluation at the end of every training, so that kind of gives us some feedback of what people are getting out of trainings. But I have had colleagues and people come back and say, thank you. I was able to take these things from this training and go and do this advocacy for a flavored tobacco policy in this city. I don't want to give it away. But and things of that nature. And also I've had feedback from the smokers, I feel like above most people, which is really kind of great. So I have done some cessation trainings and really hearing from the smokers who are in the audience when those trainings are going on and how they appreciate the encouragement of learning what happens to their body after they quit smoking and how soon it starts um, was very powerful for them. Um, People having the support system that they need while they're trying to quit. I've been tabling at different events and had people come up and say, "Oh, I called the smokers helpline and now I've been quit for this long and they gave me free patches." I had one lady say, "Oh, I forgot to put my patch on today. Well, I guess I don't need it anymore." Which was really nice. So I think a lot of it gets through, but people can't do better until they know better. And so it's really important for us to be able to go out and share the things that help empower people to feel like they can start making some changes. And as far as loved ones and family members, and I know, we kind of touched on this a little earlier. We can't unfortunately reach inside our loved ones and take addiction out of them as much as we'd love to. And make no mistake, the people, the tobacco users already know that it's not good for them, but they're addicted, and they're addicted for a reason. They've been placed in an environment that was created just for them so that they could pick up an addictive substance and start using it.